When Uncle Dave got the download that we're meant to go on a world tour, none of us were initially excited. We were like, oh my God, because we know what it's like. When you have the courage to start a conversation, people see you as a form of hope. They say, welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times of ours. And in today's episode, I'm talking, just me, on this couch, this beautiful couch, in this beautiful room, in this beautiful country, in this beautiful planet, in this beautiful galaxy, in this beautiful metaverse. I don't know if those exist. I don't think they do. Who knows? But we are here. I am here today to talk about why high noon is central to the Providence. You know, I want to take you on a bit of a journey in this episode, going through some of our experiences on the tour, because the world tour is now officially over, but also to let you know a little bit about, you know, some insights that we glean when we're on tours like this, that this work is absolutely crucial to the survival of the human species and also for the survival of our movement. It's not the one and only organization that needs to exist, but it is an essential ingredient in the cocktail of organizations that need to exist in order for humanity to reach its potential and for us to transition into Chanelguk. So if you like cool stuff and fun stuff and great stuff, listen to this podcast, everybody. See you on the inside. Welcome back, everybody. Just doing a little me time. I just got back from a whirlwind tour with our High Noon team. And it's funny because back means where. A lot of times after you travel extensively, you just want to go home. But my home is constantly moving. So even when I'm traveling, where I return back to is kind of more traveling in a sense. So I'm back here in Mongolia. And just so you know, I haven't actually checked. This is an easy ChatGPT check. So if you care to know, and if you care to let me know, I'd like to know like the farthest distance that you can travel in a single go. Some people would probably suggest that it's from America to Australia, like those birds. I don't know if you know those birds. They just fly, they get super fat and then they fly for weeks on end until they get to Australia. They go from, I think, America to Australia. And by the time they get there, they're like skin and bone. But definitely up there, one of the farthest journeys that you can make is from a place called Cochuchamba, I think, in Bolivia to Mongolia. Because that's the route that I came from. It was, holy moly, check this out. It was 4 a.m. We got to get up, go to the airport. So get up. I didn't sleep the night before, so scratch that. One night, no sleep. Go to the airport. We have a flight at 7, have to go through all sorts of weird security in that airport. And then fly 45 minutes to Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Wait for a few hours. You know, we have a couple hours, maybe 2.5 hours before our next flight. Get on the next flight. It's a 3-hour flight. Then I have 3 hours to get to my next flight, which is from Santa Cruz to Turkey, which is in Istanbul, which is a 12.5-hour flight. Took that, arrived in Turkey. Then I had an 8-hour layover, at which point I found these pods in the airport that you can sleep in. You rent them by the hour. It's super cool. Slept, but funny thing, I had this all planned out. I ChatGPT'd this whole thing. Where can I sleep? Because I'm going to be there basically 2 nights, no sleep. And I'm going to be in an airport for like 8 hours. And luckily they had these sleep pods. So I was all hyped up. And I went to the sleep pods. And as I'm walking towards my pod, because there's like a hostess that takes you to your pod, I realized that they're doing construction right next door. And I don't mean like just hammer and nail construction. I mean saw and metal, like one of the worst sounds ever. But I was so tired. I slept for a couple hours. And then my next flight was from Turkey to Mongolia. And that was about 8 hours or 9 hours, something like that. So all in, it was like I left on a Tuesday morning from our Airbnb as a team, 4 a.m., and I arrived at 7 a.m. in Mongolia. There's a bunch of time zones changing and that, but it seemed like 2 days. On a calendar, it says 2 days, but you go through Back to the Future and then Forward to the Future, and then I don't even know. But I'm back. I'm back. And I just wanted to unpack a little bit about, what I have come to realize. And as a team, we really spent a lot of time together and waxing intellectual, waxing really stupid, just laughing and just being fat and sassy sometimes. Very fat, by the way. There's one day in in Brazil where we had 2 buffets in one day. That was an all-time low for our health. It was we went to this buffet because other people were picking the restaurants. They're like, okay, buffet sounds all right. Lunch, you have still, plenty of time to burn off those calories. And then later somebody picked a restaurant. We ended up at a Brazilian buffet, which is all you can eat meat, like steak, like red meat. That was our dinner. After that, you could have rolled us home. But after, this tour, we spent so much time together meeting hundreds of people. We spoke to about 1,000 people, having very intimate time. We got to know a lot of people. It's crazy that when you start a conversation, this is for all of us to remember. When you have the courage to start a conversation, people see you as a form of hope. They say, oh, they're bringing something up. They're stirring something in me that I want to bring out into the light. And more often than not, they just come to you and then they start telling you. And it's not ideal because, if you have something deep in your heart, it's best to share with those those who really care about you. But a lot of times this is the first moment in their lives where they see that a door is open to a realm of freedom where like, wait, they're speaking so openly and candidly and honestly and frankly, they're kind of sharing their heart, and I want to share my heart. So we had so many people sharing their hearts with us. We got to know so many people so deeply. It was unbelievable. In Bolivia, we had during Saturday afternoons, we did a breakout. Uncle Dave and Aunt Mitsue and myself. They did their heavenly intimacy talk, which is about how to have heavenly sex as a couple, and they use True Parents' words. It's unbelievable. I always think, okay, when they give this talk, we're going to get kicked out of this country. We're going to be exiled or executed, something. But always, when people leave the room after their breakout, they're laughing. They're in such a good mood because it's the first time for most people to go to a workshop and hear open conversations about heavenly sex and what's possible as a couple. And so that we had couples and parents, so people who were blessed, married, and who had kids. And so the Wolfenbergers have this talk that they've been doing for years, and they opened people wide up. So much laughter, so much joy talking about sex. And then I came in and was talking about, how to open up conversations with your kids about sex, how to take care of them, how to take responsibility for them. And after we gave our presentation, which was about an hour and a half, we opened up for a Q&A. And in the beginning, it was like, questions were trickling in. They were just kind of like slowly coming. And then the flood came. And then it was just like wave after wave of tsunami. And they didn't want to end it. It was dinner. So after a 2-hour session, after a long day, there's dinner. And we said, you guys can go to dinner or we can stay and answer more questions. And some people did leave, but a bunch of people stayed. And they stayed and they stayed and they didn't want to leave. We eventually had to end the session because other people needed the room. But it was way after the session had ended. But there's just like, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 people who are leaning in and really asking deep questions, very personal. Some people asking about some very private stuff openly. And so we wanted to make sure that we respected that environment and answered. But then after that, then people came up to us and asked us more questions and more questions and more questions. It was never ending. It was so amazing. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying any of this, because it sounds kind of like grandpa's just telling stories at this point. But when you see the range of human experience in our movement from one culture to the next, and we blasted through, 6 different stops on the tour, right? So as a recap, we started out in the Philippines, then Japan, then in America, in San Francisco, and then we went to Prague in Europe, and then we went to Brazil, and then we went to Bolivia. So a wide spectrum of people and backgrounds. And again, we have the greatest spiritual family ever. We have a family that's willing to risk discomfort to be with each other and to share with each other, but they love each other so much. We have this global family, thanks to our true parents, that created this weird hodgepodge, this soup where, people can go so deep with each other. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And in many of our stops, we had people, it was their first time, people just being witnessed to. We had people in Bolivia that, this lady brought a bunch of her friends at like really early phase church, don't know much, and they had the best time, right? So we have this global community of people that can go really deep because we care about each other. And we're diverse and different enough to where it's challenging, but we also share a common belief that allows us to get through difficult stuff. And so we were talking to couples who are working on their issues within their family. We're talking to so many young people who are dealing with a range of different problems. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to capture this. I so dearly love our movement, the people in it. We obviously have issues like any movement, like any consortium of people that try to form rules and regulations, and there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be politics. There's always going to be, bad players. There's always going to be saints and sages in between. There's going to be the ones who are super religious and orthodox and try to follow the word. Other people who are more progressive and liberal, and they try to, make things progress and change constantly. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. But, High Noon plays a very special role in this global family. I want to really pinpoint this because this is a topic that gets brought up often where people ask us, are you still in the church, or are you with us, or are you against us? And they constantly question us. I'm not comparing us to superheroes, okay? But if you look at the storyline of a superhero, you look at Batman, Superman, whatever.
Hey, I wanted to let you know about the Radiant program. What's the Radiant program? If you are a young, blessed couple that was blessed in marriage sometime in the last few years, then this program is just for you. It is a couples intimacy program for young couples. And you can join with your spouse, you can join without your spouse. We've got group discussions and community for men and women separate. And also we have opportunities for you and your couple to dive deeper into God's word, into the word of true parents, and learn how to experience an absolute sex relationship. So if that's you and you want to join, check out somewhere in this video, this episode, and below, or go to highnoon.org to check it out. All right, hope to see you there.
They're like, they save the day, and everybody's like, yay! And then they save the day again, and people are like, yeah, pretty good. You could have done better. And then they save the people again, and they're like, well, now are you even trying? You're just doing the same tricks. And then they're like, he's a bad guy. He's an alien. And then they turn on him, right? This has happened so many times with High Noon where our mission has never changed. And our willingness to constantly evolve and change and adapt and take notes from people. Be in the room with anybody who will take us, like any leader who has whatever they want to say about us. We're happy to hear critiques from people who care enough to be in a relationship with us. But yet still it's amazing to see that people are, on a dime can say, oh, Hainun, are you bad? Have you gone bad? I was like, no, we're still here. We're still trying our best to help as many people as possible. And when we do this work, we are honestly, we learn so much this tour. We are constantly learning and adapting, and we're going to change up how we do workshops. We're going to still eventually, either this year or next, do a 7-day workshop. Our goal was to do a 7-day workshop this year, but then we did a world tour, and that kind of zapped a lot of our power and finances and whatnot. So we will do a 7-day workshop that's going to be very like a deep dive, and it's not going to be all content. There's going to be so much healing, so much joy and fun, and it's going to be rich. It's going to hit every part of the human, the mind, the body, the heart, the soul, right? But the main essence of why I'm bringing all of this up, this is all fodder. I don't know, fodder. This is preamble to the main point. The main point being that Hainun is crucial for our movement's survival. It's not the only aspect, but it's an inevitable need that we all have, which is to confront our shadows, heal them, let them go, and then move on into the light. If we ignore our past and our dark shadows, namely, we have all sorts of indiscretions as individuals, as families, as a community. If we don't deal with those indiscretions, they not only don't just go away, they grow and metastasize. They get more powerful, and they start to steal your dreams and your health as an individual or as a family or as an entity. And you can see that happening globally, that as a human species, if we don't deal with our problems, they only get worse. We only have more polarity. We only have more strife, right? As this is seen in politics, it's seen generations between, elders and youngers. There's just so much tension, and it's just because there's unresolved pain and these shadows. But even within our movement, guys, okay, there's obviously, we haven't been a perfect movement, to say the least. And to focus on the negative is not a solution, and to ignore the negative is not a solution. To heal the shadows, to look at them, confront them, and to move on is the only way forward. And I'm telling you this like kind of in a macro kind of way, because we just traveled the world and we just saw what our movement looks like in different cultures. And again, the best assets in our entire movement are the people, the families, the individuals, leaders and non-leaders alike, the people that you've never heard of that will never take up position, but they're leading in their own lives. And also leaders who are in the spot, like all of us are in this thing together. And there's still so much potential in our movement, but only if we go the way that is to look at our shadows, understand them. We have this new talk. I believe Andy gave it in Europe. But it's all about like looking at your shadows, okay? And there's this fear of looking at our darkness and our problems. And in Hainun, the policy is to go straight to them, not to dwell in them, but to confront them and to understand them and to figure them out. And one of the things is that your shadows, like the reason you watch porn, the reason why you do regrettable things, it's not because you're bad. It's not even because you have a bad part in you. It's because that's all you know. You have this immature thing, this part of you that's how you protect yourself. Like a little kid, right? I don't know if you guys had like a blankie or a teddy bear growing up. I remember distinctly in my room, I had like a chest filled with stuffed animals. And on a few occasions, I remember running drills just in case a vampire came and was looking in my room for me. My plan was to jump in that chest and hide under all the stuffed animals, because obviously he couldn't see me. And if he has a good sense of smell, it'd be ruined by the stuffed animals. In my little illogical mind, it made total sense. But that was my kind of safe haven. And a lot of kids growing up to have teddy bears, they suck their thumb, these things. That's how you know how to comfort yourself when you're young and immature. You're meant to grow out of that and find better ways to comfort yourself through prayer. through meditation, through self-reflection, through talking with people in your life, right? Through getting therapy if you have some deep stuff, getting life coaching, whatever. There's so many ways to being a healed person. But our shadows, even with porn, it's an evil entity. Porn, like, make no mistake that it is the massive machine that steals people's souls. Nobody makes it out alive. Nobody. Anyway, I could go. So porn itself is super evil, but us desiring to escape, that kind of mechanism within ourselves to want to run away, that's just childish. It's not evil. And so when we learn how to sit in this discomfort and deal with it in a healthy way, and to understand, why am I so uncomfortable? Just because my wife insulted me, or just because my boss yelled at me, or whatever. Why do I want to run away? It's just feelings. What if I just dealt with them, right? When you start living like that, instead of reacting to life and wanting to get vengeance, or wanting to burn down the system, or wanting to hate yourself, or just be consumed by these reactionary emotions, instead of just processing them, understanding, wow, I'm just really sensitive. Oh, wow, I haven't been eating well or sleeping well. Oh, wow, maybe I need to get out into nature, right? When you start understanding these kind of shadows, you realize that they've just been your blankie that have helped you get through life up until this point. And we have this shadow release exercise where we just say, you served me up until now in an immature state, but now I'm going to let you go because I want to grow up. When we do that as individuals and as families, think about this. I still have a young family. My kids are still young, just starting to enter adolescence. So we haven't done what a lot of wrestling matches that you do with your parents during that time. But think about in the average family, how much pain there is, how many awkward moments that you haven't healed, how many conversations that you should be having that you haven't had, that you've been avoiding because it's hard and uncomfortable. But imagine you go to those conversations and you start having them. How much healing takes place. And then you pan out even further into the community. And now imagine we start having, as a community, healing conversations about the pain that we've experienced. But not for the sake of griping and complaining, but for the sake of bringing the shadows out into the open, because we want to heal them, because we want to shed light on them. And we're willing to be wrong. We're willing to say sorry for hurting somebody that we might have hurt in our community. With that type of desire, right, to show our weak points and to apologize, but also to let people know where we're struggling. A community like that can grow quickly because you start to work on your shadows, and little by little, they dissipate and they go away. And now you're a community of light. You're a community where when a shadow creeps in, you just deal with it, gone, and you keep moving forward. Now you're making progress, right? It will never happen if you avoid your mistakes and just focus on the light. The shadows are still there, and they will come at you, and they will destroy all of your potential eventually, right? But if you also just run to your shadows and you don't know how to deal with them, then you just become consumed with negativity. The only way is to address shadows with light. There's a process. And that's what we've been trying to do at our events. It's what we're trying to do in our program, so that you can heal, so that you can find peace and light. And that's where we're going as an organization. And what we're trying to offer to our movement is the opportunity to fast track growth and to completely destroy all of the kind of hindrances that we have as a movement that are holding us back from reaching our full potential, right? And so high noon is crucial for the Providence. The high noon era, and so far high noon as an organization, we've just been prioritizing it. It's not because we're the chosen people. We're just the ones who choose to focus on this. So it makes us uniquely qualified because this is our playhouse. we have so many uncomfortable conversations as an organization constantly, because that's how you stay in a relationship. And a thriving relationship means perpetually having uncomfortable conversations with the people you love. But that's how you build trust. That's how you heal and learn to love each other. I just had a conversation with one of our staff 2 weeks ago. I was really frustrated with him, and he noticed it. He brought it up. He was the one that initiated it. I was fine with that, which is probably not great standard. But I was just like, there's other stuff that I need to do. That's not a priority. I'll just let him be him. But he brought up the conversation, and then we talked about it. And we got over it so fast, because we both just want this to happen. We want to progress. We want to live in the light. So actually, I've heard this in the divine principle, that restoration can happen quickly and it can take a long time. Moses' people didn't need to go through the wilderness for 40 years, right? Just like all of us, we can prolong our suffering, or we can just heal. It depends on what we want. You can struggle for the next 70 to 80 generations, with porn addiction and this kind of stuff, or you can help break the cycle for your kids and for your grandkids. Just do it. It can happen very quickly, right? If you're willing to kind of go through this process. So yeah, that's what High Noon wants to provide for our movement. And we saw it happening. It's not just like a high ideal that we hold. It's what we champion. It's what we fight tooth and claw for every time we go to a stop. And like when Uncle Dave got the download that we're meant to go on a world tour, none of us were initially excited. We're like, oh my God, because we know what it's like. And all the chapter leaders are like, wait, that's intense, right? Because we've never asked them to put on an event like this. They all did amazing. Every single one of our chapter leaders, they were given unique challenges, and they really did a great job, honestly speaking. And all of us, we did a great job. We came together as a team. Our initial reaction was like, oh man, like we got so much other stuff that we're trying to build right now. A world tour would disrupt so much of that. But then we realized that, this is right. This is good. So we went on the tour, and as always, I had such an emotional experience. All of us, met such solid people. We really felt God working by kind of moving the oxygen around the world through us, that we're moving this conversation around the world so that our global movement can continue to grow and to thrive and to heal. Like pure water needs to flow, right? And that means sometimes physically you need to flow. You need to go around the world. And that's what we did, is we helped to create providential flow by doing this world tour. And it was enjoyable, but it was also quite intense at times too. So please don't doubt that High Noon is central to the Providence, because it absolutely is. Again, it's not the only. I've had this debate with other people who are like, YSB is the most important. And at a time I was like, no, High Noon's the most important. It's like, that's so stupid and childish. No one kid is the most important kid in a family. They all play a role. We are all a part of this puzzle, and we all need to do our part. But without the High Noon piece of this puzzle, good luck. Good luck. A lot of people are like, oh no, it's fine. The BFDs don't have the budget. They don't have the time and the space to focus on healing. Honestly speaking, it's if you meet BFD leaders, or in America it's BFM, they're always the most loving, giving people, but they're also chronically underfunded and undersupported. They're not given the tools and resources to help our families, right? And we don't have enough resources or people or anything to help all of our families. But what we can do is create a structure and a system for people to create these little pods, right? Like in our online groups that are like healing families, and that can spread. This is just a metaphor. All of High Noon is stuff that we should be doing in our families, should be doing in our communities, free and clear of High Noon. But until that happens organically, then High Noon is just here to help you talk about sex, especially, right? In terms of ascend, it's talking about porn and masturbation and learning how to build a healthy relationship with sexuality in a heavenly way. And with core, it's preparing yourself to be wed to another person eternally. And for radiant, it's learning how to be a heavenly couple and have heavenly sexual experiences, but also conversations, so that sex brings you as a couple closer to Heavenly Parent rather than creates this dark, weird feeling within your family. And then School of Love is to help the parent-child relationship have the topic of sex as a connecting point rather than a dividing point. So we have these things, and we are going to continue them and building them and expanding these programs and all of our resources and everything ad infinitum until they're happening organically. When heavenly sexuality is the cultural norm, probably High Noon can retire. But until that day, and it looks like we're kind of veering way off into the wrong direction, until that day, we'll be fighting tooth and claw to help the Providence understand that if you want to go witnessing and you want to bring new people to our faith, I'm guessing that they have probably struggled with some sort of sexual problems or will in the future, or want to teach their subsequent kids about the heavenly way of sexuality. You need us, right? If you want to heal within your family, then you're going to desperately need the tools to listen, to share, to support, skills that you can learn in High Noon, right? If you want to heal as a couple, if you want to, we are central. We're central. The topics that we discuss, but also how we discuss them, our processes, these are all crucial in terms of the Providence. So obviously I'm sold on that. If you have any questions, let us know, because honestly speaking, there's a lot of misconceptions about High Noon. We're still the porn people. We're some like off-Broadway kind of circus act for some people's concepts, even though we're healing on such a different level. We had a leader in Europe come because she didn't really know who we were. She liked us, but we were like the porn people. She came to our event. She's like, oh my God, you guys are like light years beyond what I thought you were. You were helping families. You're helping so many people heal in so many different ways. She wrote this glowing report and sent it to all the leaders she could, because like, this is so important. Of course it is. Of course it is. We know that, but sometimes we're too convinced that we become unrelatable to others, right? So anyway, that's my piece. It was a beautiful tour. Honestly speaking, it was a perfect tour. Everything went perfectly well. Obviously we could always do better at giving talks and creating environments. We took a lot of notes. Like I said, we're going to continue to make our workshops better, more impactful, all of our programs better, more impactful. But yeah, we feel really blessed to do this work. And I think after this tour, all of us are more convinced than ever that High Noon is so essential for the healing of humanity and for especially our movement, to get these shadows that are these bad conditions that we've made, that are these kind of dark skeletons in our closet, to get rid of them and to heal them and to let them go so that we can move on to a very bright, beautiful Channelguk future. So thank you for listening, everybody. This is a unique one, but I just, oftentimes we're so focused on the trees, talking about different trees in the sex forest. That's a really weird analogy. But I wanted to kind of take a bird's eye view and look at the forest itself. That High Noon, we're doing the type of work that nobody wants to do necessarily. I mean, we love doing it, but High Noon didn't come about because of a bidding war where people are like, I want to start, an organization where we put all of our time and money into healing people who have, bad habits with sex and broken families and all that. There's just crickets. So we started to fill that void, and we're trying to expand our offerings to help heal more and more people. But we can't do it without you. We can't do it without Heavenly Parent. We can't do it without, a lot of great blessings. So I feel very fortunate to have traveled the world, and more importantly, to meet the people that I met who are unbelievable. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope it helps. Everything we do, we're just trying to help. We're trying to find different angles. If you have suggestions for how we can do things better, just let me know. Let us know. Reach out. See you next time.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.